Well, I think it's pretty much safe to say I told you so. And it's not just me. Everybody told you guys. When it comes to Madam Web, we already knew Madam Web was going to be a massive dumpster fire. I mean, this is not just, I'm not just saying that, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Web is going to be a massive, massive failure for Sony. Now, why do I say that? Well, the writing was on the wall. When you look at the trailers, when you look at the story that's being told around it, when you look at the media spin being told about Madam Web, you already knew that they were going to go the way of the Marvels. This was just going to be Sony's version of it, and in the Spider-Man universe, no less, even though they say it's not canon to any of the movies, which that in of itself is going to destroy any hope for this film being good or this film being watched. But now you have the film actually being out, and the reviews are terrible. They are terrible as expected. The critics don't like it. The fans are not going to like it. Nobody is going to like this film. So let's get into this article, guys, from Forbes. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button, man. I would greatly appreciate it. We passed 30,000 subs. We blew past it, and we're on our way to 40K very quickly. I appreciate everyone's support. It means a lot to me, man. It says Madam Web scores terrible reviews, likely latest dud in Sony Marvel's universe. Early reviews for the latest Marvel film have slammed Madam Web as the worst comic book movie yet, as Sony's effort to flesh out its own Marvel universe separate from the ultra successful Disney franchises continues to flounder. Well, Forbes, I'm gonna have to disagree with you here. It was ultra successful. It is no longer anywhere near successful, unfortunately, for Disney. Marvel's MCU, or for Disney anyway, has lost them an ungodly amount of money, and the likes. The fact is, they're never going to recoup from it. Okay, they have completely abandoned their client base. They've completely abandoned the fans. They attack the fans every chance they get, mind you, but they completely abandoned everybody who was originally a fan of the MCU. So I don't really think that Sony is trying to make their own version of the MCU. I think that would be pretty dumb, to be honest with you. I think they should just try to co-opt the MCU and make something like No Way Home where they can all benefit financially from. But it looks like they came out with Madam Web. Who really knows why, right? Who really knows why? You're not tying it to the actual MCU. You're not tying it to any of the films prior. You made it in its own little universe, and you made it about a character that most people don't even know or care about. What was the reason for making Madam Web? Why did you decide to make Madam Web over any other character that would have made more sense? I'll tell you why. Very clearly, it's because you needed diversity. You needed equity. You needed inclusion. You needed to make a female-led film, and you chose Madam Web in order to do it because that's just probably one of the few characters you actually had access to in terms of rights. It says critics have wasted no time panning the film with commentary ranging from hilariously bad by the Daily Beast to depressingly internet Hollywood Reporter, and having none of the charm you expect from even the most basic superhero movies from Variety. The film so far has a dismal 25% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which, by the way, I believe it went down even less than 25%. I think it's at 19% at the time of this filming, but I gotta go check. I can check later on in the video. It says Madam Web is expected to make $30 million to $35 million after its Wednesday release and have the lowest ever domestic opening for a Sony Spider-Man movie. Well, that's because it's not a Spider-Man movie. Like, you shouldn't even put Spider-Man in the same name as this. This is not a Spider-Man movie. They even came out and told you it's not a Spider-Man movie because it's not even in the same universe. It's a little Elseworld story. It's all by itself in a little bubble somewhere. This is not a Spider-Man movie. So it says Madam Web, starring Sydney Sweeney, Dakota Johnson, Emma Roberts, and Isabella Mercedes, is poised to be the latest flop in Sony's efforts to build a world using side characters and villains from Marvel's Spider-Man comic books, but without the webbed hero himself. Dubbed the Sony Spider-Man Universe, or SSU for short, the Sony franchise is built around characters commonly associated with Spider-Man, but the title character has been lent to Disney for its own Marvel productions, and Tom Holland has starred as a superhero in Spider-Man Homecoming, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Endgame, among other ultra-popular films. Movies included in Sony's SSU are Venom, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and Morbius. Oh god, Morbius. I forgot about Morbius, man. Morbius isn't that the worst superhero film at this point? Man, if Madam Web is worse than Morbius, oh my god. I think The Marvels was almost as bad as Morbius. This is terrible. I really don't know how else to put it other than that. It says, on the whole, the films have been panned by critics. The second Venom film was the most well-received with a 57% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Lovers of Marvel movies will have little choice but to buy into Sony's Spider-Man universe this year. Outside of Disney's Deadpool this July, Sony's Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, and Venom 3 are the only Marvel movies slated to hit theaters after the 2023 actors and writers' strike wreaked havoc on the release schedule. The next release is Disney's Avengers-based Marvel Cinematic Universe will be Captain America Brave New World, now slated for a Valentine's Day release in 2025. DC will also release Joker Folie à Deux in October. Well, I find it ironic that Captain America Brave New World is going to come out in Black History Month. It's none of this is accidental, ladies and gentlemen. All of it's planned. Do not let them fool you. They do certain things purposefully. They're going to try to make Captain America Brave New World into the next Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where if you don't go see it, you're not black. That's essentially what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to convince every black person in the United States of America that they have to go support this film. If they don't, then they are not black. It's such a joke. It says $500.9 million. That's how much the first three movies in Sony's Spider-Man universe made at the domestic box office. By comparison, the first three Marvel films for Disney, Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2, made $766.3 million. But it's not just Sony that's struggling with its superhero films. Warner Bros., DC Studios, and Disney Marvel Studios both produced flops last year that drummed up conversation around the idea of superhero fatigue, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with the idea of superhero fatigue in the way that they're trying to explain superhero fatigue as, right? So for me, superhero fatigue is simply just a cop-out, okay? There's certain movies that have come out that have proven this to be false, right? Spider-Man No Way Home, they were talking about superhero fatigue back when that movie came out, and then that movie comes out and makes well over $1 billion. It goes to show that people are not tired of just superheroes. People are tired of badly written superheroes. That's the issue. People are tired of badly written movies, badly written stories that are so focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, they actually forget to write an interesting story that makes sense, right? Forget overall arcing story. You don't even make sense canonically. Like, most of the time they just completely forget or ignore their own canon and make up whatever the hell that they want in a movie 5 years later and forget what they did a few years before. If you're trying to do an MCU and you're trying to do something with a continuous canon, you cannot then forget what you did prior. You know what I mean? You then also can retcon certain things in a new movie. It just really starts to annoy people who try to take canon seriously. If you don't take canon seriously, you're not going to have your diehard fans. But ultimately, they're not looking to reach out to the diehard fans. They're not looking to reach out to people like you and me who might read manga or read comic books. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about going after the normie who's looking to take his girlfriend out on a Saturday night and go watch the latest Marvel movie because that's all that's out at the time. That's what they're aiming for. They're aiming to get people like that into the box office. But unfortunately, with people like that, you're never going to have a long-lasting fan. You're never going to have someone who's really invested unless they get invested or you give them a reason to get invested. And Marvel, Warner Brothers, DC especially, they don't know how to get fans invested anymore because they're too busy pushing this diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit on people that don't want to hear it anymore. We don't want to see this nonsense. We don't care about this nonsense. And you're advocating towards people that don't actively watch your movies, right? Like, you're virtue signaling to people that are proven to not watch your movies. You're not going to have nowhere near as big of a fan base. And listen, that's fine. If you want to go after a niche audience, then you need to have a niche budget. I'm just being real with you. You can't have a $200 to $300 million budget and then try to go after a niche audience like the LGBTQ community or the black community. Just simply put, it's not going to be successful. No matter how much you may try to convince people otherwise, we have seen time and time again, it just doesn't work like that. You're going to have one or two outliers here or there like Barbie, but Barbie was not a niche product to begin with. They can make it into a feminist movie, but ultimately every girl, feminist or non-feminist, is going to have some sort of connection with Barbie and want to go see that movie just because it's Barbie, right? So you're not going to have that kind of outlier every single time. Those are just a few and far between examples. But we're just going to continue to see what happens when Madam Web continues to go into the box office. But we're looking at a flop that, as I predicted, is going to be bigger than the Marvels. And the only saving grace is that the budget is nowhere near the budget of the Marvels. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know your thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.
Let's try that again.